Hi, welcome to Benny D Builds. Like any woodworker, I like a nice sharp chisel. And don't get me wrong, there's some great videos out there showing you how to get that razor sharp edge. But if you're like me and can't afford those fancy diamond plates or grinding setups, then stick around because I'm going to show you how to get a razor sharp edge quickly, cheaply and easily. Okay, so what I've got here is a pretty typical builders or carpenters or bench chisel, and it's what a lot of home handyman or woodworkers like myself are going to get from the local hardware store where you don't have a lot to choose from. A little bit of anatomy of our chisel here. So we've got our base or sole of our chisel, and we've got our bevel here, or what we're going to call our primary bevel. And this chisel happens to be called a through tang chisel or full tang chisel. You can see that the material here, the metal, comes right through the handle to this striking plate at the end. And that just means that you're not going to damage your handle or anything like that as you're pounding away if you need to. Now modern day chisels are actually made of quite hard steel and they're quite thick. What that means is if we were to sharpen this whole face of this primary bevel here, it's actually going to be really hard and take a long time, and we don't want that. So what we're going to look at doing is actually making what we call a secondary bevel just along the edge here of about 2 or 3 mil. Now you can see this chisel, straight out of the packet, brand new, and it's actually got a whole heap of lines on the face here of this primary bevel, and same on the bottom of our chisel as well. And what that means is that we're going to be trying to cut wood with a cheese grater. Sharpness equals smoothness. So what we need to do is get this nice and smooth and then look at focusing on that secondary bevel. As we said, this is the cheap, easy and quick way of sharpening chisels, but there are a couple of things you're going to need. First of all, we're going to need some wet and dry sandpaper. So this is the type that's used in automotive to do bodywork, etc. Usually black. On the back it's going to tell you the grits. And we're going to need basically as many grits as you can get. Today I'm going to be starting with 240. I find that you don't really need to go too much harsher than that, but if you've got a really old chisel that doesn't really have any bevel on it at all, or it's quite severely damaged, you might need to start something at 80 or 120 and work your way through and basically go up to the highest grit that you can. So for me, the highest I can get my hands on locally is 1500 grit, but I find that that does a pretty good job. The other thing that you're going to need is a nice flat surface. So here I've got my little 6-inch jointer, got a really nice plate here. That's really nice and smooth. So you're going to need some sort of a surface. Alternatively, if you've got a decent quality table saw that's got a nice cast top to it, that'll work. My bench vise here as well has got a nice flat plate on the at the back of it too, and so does my nice drill press. So you need something that's really nice and flat. The flatter the better. In a pinch you could probably pick up a nice glazed tile, something like that. But that's not going to be quite as good as something that's machined as perfectly flat as this. So you're going to need that flat surface. You're going to need the wet and dry sandpaper. And the last thing that you really want is one of these. So this is a sharpening jig or guide. Now you can get away without it, but the problem is consistency is key. So as we're sharpening our chisel, we need to keep it on the same angle on every pass. And being able to do that by hand is a skill that takes a long time to learn. Not a skill that I have. So I went ahead and picked up one of these. They're about $20 or $30 online, not too expensive. In a future video, I plan on showing you how to make one of these yourself for a little bit less than from things you can get from the local hardware store. But that's going to be used to set our angle. And last but not least, everyone's favourite in the workshop, a bit of WD-40, just for some lubrication on our sandpaper. So that's going to keep our material clear, and just provide that little bit of lubrication just to make things run a little bit smoother. You can use just about any liquid to do that, and you see people use water on wet stones, different things like that. But my theory is water's your enemy when it comes to steel. It's going to make it rust. So why not use something that's not going to set you up for failure later on? So a bit of WD-40 I find works well. Doesn't damage your sandpaper or anything like that, and helps it last a little bit longer. So now what we need to do is we need to get our angle right. Now I need to clean up this primary bevel here. So I'm going to set my jig so it's completely flat on the top here. Just like that. So while we're ready to go here, a bit of WD-40. We're putting our chisel down, and we want to make sure that we're getting even pressure across our chisel so it's not rocking at all. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're just going to drag the chisel back. Okay, lift it up, drag it back. Okay, nice even pressure. Now, it's important just to drag it back for two reasons. One, it makes the material that we're taking off come off the tip of our chisel and we feel it as a burr. Okay, the other reason is if you start sliding it forward, you end up digging into your sandpaper at some stage. So now that I've done a few passes with that, I can feel that I've got a little bit of a burr forming on the back. Okay, and I'm starting to get rid of all of my machine marks there. Okay, and that little bit almost got rid of those. Okay, just a few more goes. Right, that burr's developing. Front of the chisel's looking pretty good. Okay, so now all I'm going to do is lay it flat. Okay, and I'm just going to, I find it's easiest just to slide it across a couple of times. Okay, we've got to make sure we stay flat when we do this, and that just takes off that burr at the back. Okay, now if I want to clear up, okay, those machine marks on the back here, it's just a little bit more of that work. Okay, so, and this can be a bit easier when you don't have it in the actual jig, that we just go either side to side or front to back. Okay, just making sure that we're following that plate here, keeping it flat, okay, and that's cleaning up that surface. And you find that really, it doesn't take a lot to get that surface nice and clean. Okay. Okay, now that we've got that primary bevel cleared up, what we need to do is just adjust our jig here a little bit so that we're only going to be working on the first couple of mil of that actual primary bevel there to build up that, get that secondary bevel going. So I'm just going to pull my chisel back a little bit. Okay, doesn't need to be much. Okay, you'll find a little bit goes a long way when you're adjusting these. I'm going to tighten this up and just give you one last little tip before you get into it. Right, which is, you again, consistency is key. When I come back and want to touch this up again later on in future use, it's best if I'm put back in the same spot. So what I'm doing here is just got a little file, okay, and I'm just filing a little line on the back of my chisel there, okay, like so. And that's telling me now where I need to slide my chisel in when I'm sharpening this in the future. Okay. Okay, so here we are, ready to go with our secondary bevel. So same as last time, we've got to keep that pressure even, just keep dragging it back. Now still on 240 grit sandpaper, okay, just to get that secondary bevel started. Yeah, looking good. Okay, couple off at the back. There off. Okay, start moving through our sandpapers. Okay, so now that we've gone through all our different grits of sandpaper, okay, there's one last step you can do if you have the gear available. So this is a leather strop, so it's still got a coarse side and a fine side. If you can't pick up one of these, pretty straightforward to make. Find yourself an old leather belt, okay, cut a strip off, glue it just to a bit of timber, okay, and then all you need is some sort of just polishing compound or something like that. The one that I've got here just came with a little bit of wax. Okay, so just whack a bit on there, and what this is doing is this is going to bring up that real mirror shine, okay, on our cutting edge, okay, which means we're getting really sharp at that point. Okay. I'm still using my guide. I want that consistency. Okay, now here we go. You can see here we've got that nice mirrored secondary bevel. You can see initially I was a little bit off centre, okay, with where my chisel was in the guide. Okay, it's not going to affect the overall performance at all. Okay, backside's looking nice. Now it's time to give it a whirl. Okay, as the saying goes, the proof's in the pudding. Here's a bit of Australian hardwood. Okay, you can see we're going straight to it. No dramas. So there we have it, folks, the full process of sharpening chisels, the quick, easy and cheap way of doing it. Okay, if you look after your chisels, you should only just need to hone them a little bit on your finest sandpaper or just a leather strop. Okay, so until next time, happy building from Benny D.